All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving headfirst into a real rabbit hole.
Yeah, this one is,
It's a doozy.
it's a wild one.
So we're going to be talking about Brigitte Macron,
The First Lady of France.
First Lady of France.
Yeah.
And, obviously a lot of this stuff is pretty out there.
It's pretty out there.
It's like next level
Yeah.
conspiracy theory type stuff. But it's still, I think, really interesting to look at.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially, you and I, we like to kind of look at these things and see, well, okay,
Yeah.
is there anything here or is this,
Is there what's the nugget of truth? What can we extrapolate from all of this?
Totally.
Yeah.
So disclaimer, grain of salt.
Huge grain of salt.
Huge grain of salt.
Yeah.
And our main source for this deep dive is going to be Candace Owens
Yes.
and her YouTube series, Becoming Brigitte.
Yes. Becoming Brigitte, which is several episodes long.
Multi-part, yeah.
So we watched them all, and we're going to break it down for you.
So let's start with, I guess, what we know about Brigitte Macron.
Yeah, like what's the commonly accepted narrative?
Right.
So most people know that she and Emmanuel Macron have a pretty significant age gap.
Yeah, more than 20 years, right?
24 years.
Yeah. 24 years, wow.
Yeah, and that she was his teacher.
Yes, at his high school.
At his high school in Amiens.
In Amiens, France.
And so that's kind of I think the part of their relationship that most people know about.
It's the scandalous part.
It's the juicy part.
Right.
The part that everybody kind of gloms onto.
And then there's, of course, like the sort of public image of Brigitte Macron.
Yeah, she's always so stylish and put together.
Right. She's like, and always looks amazing.
And she's got this kind of
she's got like a rock and roll.
like edgy chic thing going on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of that comes from, or is kind of based on authorized biographies and photos that are managed by a PR agency called Best Image.
Which is run by a woman named Mimi Marchand.
Oh, Mimi Marchand, who's like...
Who is kind of a...
she's like a...
I don't know how to describe her.
She's a character, right.
She's a character.
She's been accused of...
She's had some shady dealings.
Shady dealings. Like
extortion, forgery, that sort of thing.
Right. Okay.
So I think her involvement in this raises some questions.
Totally.
About how curated Brigitte Macron's public image actually is.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, we have this sort of, like surface level...
The official story.
The official story, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Candace Owens comes in with Becoming Brigitte, and she's like, hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly.
And she throws this, just massive wrench into everything.
Yeah, she does.
Her big theory that she's putting forward is that Brigitte Macron was assigned male at birth.
Yeah.
And transitioned later in life.
Yeah, she even goes as far as to suggest that Brigitte Macron might be her deceased sister.
Whoa, okay, that's like a next level claim.
Yeah, that's pretty out there.
So, I mean, what evidence does she use to support this theory?
So she points to a couple of things. Yeah. One is that there's this real lack of publicly available photos from Brigitte's early life.
Yeah, like childhood, young adulthood.
Especially like before she was a teacher.
Yeah, before she was a teacher.
Yeah.
It's like there's this hole in her history.
Yeah, and filmmakers and journalists who've looked into this, who have tried to find pictures from this period in her life.
Like, it's a black hole.
They hit a wall.
Like, they can't find anything.
And even requests for access to school archives.
Which you think would have photos.
You'd think you would find, like, at least a yearbook photo.
At least a yearbook photo.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But even those have been denied.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then there's all this mystery around her first husband.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Andre Louis Ozier.
Andre Louis Ozier. And, like, there's no information about him.
There's nothing.
It's like he's a ghost.
Yeah. And even the things that we do know about him.
Like what his job was, where he worked.
Right.
Those things are disputed or have been proven false.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is bizarre.
Yeah. And so Owens kind of connects all these things to some pretty interesting figures in the Macron's circle.
Like who?
Well, first of all, there's Mimi Marchand.
Oh, right. Our PR.
The PR maven.
Maven, yes.
With her connections to the criminal underworld.
Right.
So she's kind of, I think, a shady character in this whole thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. And then who else?
And then there's Dr. Patrick Bowie.
Dr. Patrick Bowie. Okay.
Now, he's a prominent plastic surgeon.
Okay.
And he specializes in feminization procedures.
Okay, so right away we're kind of...
The alarm bells are going off.
Alarm bells are going off.
Yeah. So
okay.
He has publicly said that he has treated Brigitte Macron.
Really?
Yeah. And he has received France's highest honor from Emmanuel Macron.
Which implies a pretty close relationship.
Very close relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah. So Owens uses this connection and the lack of early photos of Brigitte to support her theory that Brigitte may have transitioned later in life.
Okay, it's a bold claim,
Very bold claim.
but I guess she's laying out her reasoning.
She's building her case.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who else is in this web of intrigue?
Well, there's David de Rothschild.
David de Rothschild. Okay.
No, he's a powerful financier.
Okay.
And he mentored Emmanuel Macron at the Rothschild Bank.
At the Rothschild Bank. Okay.
Now, what's interesting here is that there are reports that suggest Emmanuel might not have been fully qualified for the position that he held at the bank.
So maybe some strings were pulled.
Maybe some connections were leveraged to get him that job.
Right.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us to Emmanuel Macron's family.
Oh, right. We got to talk about the family.
Yeah, so his mother, Françoise Nogues.
Yeah, François Nogues.
Her medical specialty involved a specific condition related to intersex characteristics.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, so that raises the question of whether she may have been involved in identity-related matters within the family.
So we've got all these connections.
All these little threads.
All these threads, right.
Yeah.
We've got missing information. We've got these conflicting accounts.
And we've got this AI angle that Owens brings in.
Oh, right, the AI. Okay, tell me about this.
Yeah, so a journalist named Xavier Poussard, who has done a lot of research on Brigitte Macron, he used facial recognition software to compare photos of Jean-Michel Trogneux.
Who's Jean-Michel Trogneux?
So that's Brigitte Macron's brother.
Okay.
Now, he's another mysterious figure in this whole story.
Okay.
But anyway, he compared photos of Jean-Michel Trogneux and Brigitte Macron.
Okay.
And the software indicated a high probability that they are the same person.
Whoa, hold on. So the AI is saying
Is suggesting
that Brigitte Macron is actually her brother.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, but then
There's a but.
But when the same technology was used to compare photos of Brigitte Macron to the woman in her first wedding photo,
Okay.
the probability of a match was low.
Oh my God. Okay, so the AI is saying that Brigitte Macron is Jean-Michel Trogneux,
Potentially.
but not the woman who married André Louvier.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
This is so confusing.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't Jean-Michel Trogneux in the wedding photos, then who was it?
That's a good question. And Owens suggests another possibility,
Okay.
that it might have been Emmanuel Macron's uncle.
His uncle.
Yeah, who was also named Jean-Michel.
Okay, another Jean-Michel.
Another Jean-Michel.
And this uncle was his godfather.
Was also his godfather.
Oh, wow. This is like 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the uncle is that he died the year before Emmanuel married Brigitte.
Okay.
And there's virtually no mention of him in Emmanuel's autobiography.
Really?
And photos of him are almost impossible to find. So it's like he's been erased from the narrative.
Okay, this is getting very weird.
It's very strange.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking about names and how there are so many people with the same name.
The Trogneux family.
Right, the Trogneux family, and it's like,
Especially the name Jean. It's like,
it's everywhere.
it's everybody.
Yeah.
And it makes it very difficult to keep track of who's who.
Right.
But I think it's important to note that this naming practice could be deliberate.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, it could be a way to obfuscate identities.
Like a smokescreen.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes you wonder, like, what are they trying to hide?
Right. What is the purpose of all this?
Yeah.
Why make it so difficult to track people down?
Yeah, and also, like, remember, Emmanuel Macron acknowledges his other siblings,
Yes.
but he never mentions Jean-Michel,
Never mentioned Jean-Michel.
which is really bizarre.
It's very strange.
It's very strange.
Yeah, and I think it definitely adds to the suspicion that there's something more to this story.
There's something they're not telling us.
Yeah, something's being hidden.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we will dive even deeper into this rabbit hole.
We'll see where it leads us.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
So, like, the more we find out about this, the more questions come up.
Right. It's like every time you think you're getting close to some kind of answer,
You're just like, wait a minute.
another weird thing pops up.
Yeah, and like, this theory that Candace Owens is putting out there,
About Brigitte being trans.
yeah, about Brigitte Macron, like, was she assigned male at birth?
Right.
Is she really Jean-Michel? Is she someone else entirely?
Like, who is she?
Like who is she?
Yeah.
I mean, you think that's a plausible theory, like, based on what we know?
I mean, it's certainly possible, right?
Right.
We've seen these kinds of things happen before.
Right.
Where people in power try to control the narrative.
Yeah, like They try to, I mean, it's all about information control, right?
It's all about shaping the story that the public gets to see.
And like, especially, remember how like Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron have threatened all those defamation lawsuits?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Like a lot of them.
Against journalists, against bloggers.
Anyone who like even hints.
Anyone who questions the narrative.
Yeah.
They get slapped with a lawsuit.
Right. So, I mean, that's a pretty effective way to shut people up.
Yeah, it's a way to silence your critics.
Right.
And it's a way to intimidate anyone who might want to investigate further.
Yeah.
So it's like, if Brigitte Macron really was assigned female at birth,
right,
you would think that it would be pretty easy to just
prove it,
just release a birth certificate or some kind of official document.
Right, like case closed.
Case closed, but they're not doing that.
They're not doing that. And they're focusing on like all these like minor details.
Yeah, they're getting bogged down in the weeds. And like the mainstream media, especially in France, has kind of played along with this. They've dismissed all these investigations as like conspiracy theories.
Right, like, oh, this is just crazy.
Yeah, this is just, fringe stuff.
Right, but it makes you wonder if they're afraid to challenge the Macrons.
Yeah, or maybe they're complicit in perpetuating this image.
It's like they're playing a game of keep away with the truth.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, we have this official narrative that seems to be falling apart.
Yeah, it's pretty shaky at this point.
And then we have Candace Owens' theory, which is interesting.
It's definitely interesting.
But it's like a lot of speculation.
A lot of speculation.
And circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, not a lot of hard proof.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are we supposed to make of all this?
Well, I think the most important thing is to keep an open mind.
Right.
To be willing to consider the possibility that there's more to the story than what we're being told.
Right.
But we also have to be careful.
Right. We can't just believe everything we see on the internet.
Exactly. Just because someone posts something on YouTube doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
We have to look at the evidence. We have to consider the biases of our sources.
Right.
And we have to think critically about why certain information is being presented to us.
Right. Like, what's the motivation?
Exactly. What's the agenda?
So, I mean, key takeaways for our listeners.
I think one of the big takeaways is that the information landscape is really complex.
Oh, yeah. It's like a jungle out there.
It's a minefield, right?
Yeah.
We're constantly bombarded with information.
Especially with a story like this.
Yeah, this is like a real-life soap opera.
It is.
It's got all the elements.
It does. It really does.
Yeah, so it's easy to get lost in all the noise.
Right. So how do we navigate that?
Well, I think the first thing is to be wary of anyone who claims to have all the answers.
Right. Because nobody does.
Nobody does. There are always multiple perspectives.
Right.
And the truth is often very elusive. So, just be open to the possibility that there might be more than one side to the story.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, question everything.
Yeah, question everything.
Do your own research.
Yeah.
And come to your own conclusions.
It's not, based on the evidence.
Based on the evidence, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to some of the, the more interesting...
The juicier bits.
Yeah, the juicier bits of information that we've uncovered.
Sure.
So, remember Dr. Patrick Boogie?
Oh, yeah, the plastic surgeon.
The plastic surgeon, yeah.
Specializing in feminization procedures.
And he's treated Brigitte Macron.
Yeah, and he's received France's highest honor from Emmanuel Macron.
Well, it's pretty.
Very close, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Owens is saying that this, this connection and the lack of photos of Brigitte when she was younger could point to
a transition
later in life.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Right. And it makes you wonder, how easy is it to erase someone's past in the digital age?
I mean, it's pretty easy, right? Information can be manipulated.
Totally.
It can be scrubbed from the internet.
Yeah, it's like a digital makeover.
Exactly. It's a digital facelift.
Yeah. Okay. And then what about Mimi Marchand?
Oh, Mimi.
And Best Image.
Right, the PR firm.
Do you think that their control over Brigitte Macron's public image could be, part of this whole, narrative shaping?
Absolutely. I mean, Marchand is known for her, let's say, unconventional methods.
Yeah. And so that makes you wonder what else she might be capable of.
Right. Exactly.
It's like a whole other layer of mystery.
Yeah. We might never know the full extent of her involvement.
Right.
But it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah. And then there's, of course, Emmanuel Macron's family.
Right, the whole Trignou clan.
The clan, yeah.
With their weird naming practices.
All the genes.
All the genes.
And his mom's medical specialty. And the disappearance of his uncle.
It's just bizarre.
It is bizarre.
It's like a David Lynch film.
It really is.
Yeah, just strange things happening.
Yeah, and then And then we can't forget about the Rothschild connection.
Right, David de Rothschild,
Mentoring Emmanuel.
even though he might not have been qualified.
Yeah, like, why?
Yeah, what was the motivation there?
It makes you wonder, maybe it's all about, like, power and influence.
I mean, that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
We're starting to speculate here, but
But it's fun to speculate.
it's fun to speculate, yeah.
Right.
And I think it's important to, to consider all the angles.
Right. So where does this leave us?
I mean, we've got this theory about Brigitte Macron's identity
Right.
that's compelling,
It's compelling.
but ultimately it's unsubstantiated.
Right.
We don't have any hard proof.
Right.
And then we've got this web of connections
Yeah.
and unexplained events.
Yeah. And then we have this powerful couple
Right. The Macrons,
who seem very intent on controlling the narrative.
they do not want people digging into their past.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like a puzzle
It's a puzzle.
with a lot of missing pieces.
Yeah. And we might never have all the answers.
That's true, but the journey is, I think, just as important as the destination.
Totally.
If the process of investigating,
Yes.
of asking questions,
Yeah.
of digging deeper,
It makes you think, doesn't it?
it does.
It really makes you wonder what else is out there.
Yeah, what else is lurking beneath the surface?
What else are they hiding?
Yeah, it's a fascinating story.
It's a fascinating story.
And I think it really speaks to the power of, the internet.
Right?
And how information can be used and misused.
Right. And how easy it is to manipulate information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be very careful
Yeah.
about what we believe.
Yeah. We have to be critical thinkers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we will try to put all of this together
We'll try to make sense of it all.
and see what we can learn from this very strange and mysterious case.
Stay tuned. So we've gone pretty deep down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, we have with all this.
It's a deep one. Missing photos and confusing family connections.
Right. All these conflicting accounts and
Conflicting accounts.
dead ends. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, what does it all mean?
Yeah, why should our listeners care about the backstory of the French First Lady?
Well, because I think it reveals something much deeper about the world we live in.
Okay.
Like it exposes the fragility of truth.
Yeah, especially in the digital age.
Especially in the digital age.
Where information can be so easily manipulated.
Right, fabricated.
Yeah.
Like how much of what we see and hear is actually real?
Right, and how much is a carefully constructed narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about Brigitte Macron.
Right.
It's about how easily information can be manipulated.
Right.
Especially by those in power.
Especially by those in power.
Yeah.
And so what do we do with all this? How do we navigate this very complex information landscape?
Yeah. It's confusing out there,
It is. Yeah, so I think the first thing is that we can't just blindly accept the official narrative.
Right. We have to be critical thinkers.
We have to be critical thinkers.
Question what we're told.
Question what we're told, dig deeper, do our own research.
Right. Be skeptical.
Be skeptical.
Yeah.
And so, in the case of Brigitte Macron,
Yeah.
is it possible that she just wanted some privacy?
Right. Like maybe she's just a very private person.
And that's why there are these inconsistencies.
Yeah. And that's why it seems like
In the public records.
she's trying to hide things.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you have to ask, why go to such lengths to erase certain family members?
Right. Like why?
From the narrative, why control the information so tightly?
Why be so secretive?
Yeah, why be so secretive?
Yeah.
Is there something more deliberate going on?
Right. Is there a reason
Is there a reason?
why they don't want us to know certain things?
Yeah, and I think that's where those defamation lawsuits come in.
Right.
If there's nothing to hide,
Why are they so aggressive?
why be so aggressive about silencing critics?
Yeah.
Why try to shut down any investigation into Brigitte Macron's past?
Right. Yeah. It does make you think.
It does.
So, I mean, I think we've laid out the facts.
We've laid out the speculation, the players,
Yeah.
the theories.
The evidence, the lack of evidence. And, now it's up to the listener
It's up to you.
to decide what they believe.
What do you think?
Yeah. What do you think?
Is this just a coincidence?
Or is there something more going on here?
Is there a bigger effort to control the narrative?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what's so fascinating about these deep dives
Yeah,
is that we often end up with more questions than answers.
that's true.
But those questions can lead us
To a deeper understanding of the world.
Yeah. They can really make us think.
Absolutely.
So what do you think, listener?
Do you buy the official story?
Do you believe that Brigitte Macron is who she says she is?
Or do you think there might be more to this story than meets the eye?
We want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, share your thoughts.
But in the meantime, we just want to thank you for joining us
Thank you for going down the rabbit hole with us.
on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating look into the world of the strange and the unexplained.
Stay curious.